Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Hybrid Driven. So which is the right trim level of the Toyota Prius to buy? You know, quick story, I have one on order. Actually, I've grabbed one out of allocation. I put a deposit down. This is one that a dealership had already coming in. It was about a month ago, was supposed to be in at the end of June. We're in the middle of July and still not in yet. I heard that there was some kind of a delay, a campaign on it. Could have been anything, floor mats, rear cover in the back, engine, who knows. Anyway, it's coming. The trim level that I'm getting is the Prius XLE. Touted is probably the most popular one that they're going to have, the one that everybody's going to buy, I suppose. Now, there are really two trim levels that I'd consider. One is the XLE. You can go to the Limited, you can go to the all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive. Mine is going to be front-wheel drive. And then, of course, you can step up to the Prius Prime. Now, admittedly, I didn't know a lot about hybrids in general, or the Prius specifically, when I first saw this car. And by the way, it's completely redesigned. Love what Toyota has done with this car. They have really stepped up the game when it comes to the Prius. I was one of those detractors in the past. One of those people that made fun of the Prius, thought it was really a worthless vehicle, but that has all changed. And we still get excellent fuel economy with it. 52, 54 miles per gallon, depending on what trim level you get, which is still awesome, especially in a car that looks as good as this one does now. So, in looking at the two different trims, I was wrong. I thought that the Prime was more like a Tesla, that it would have to be plugged into one of those special chargers, that you couldn't just plug it into the wall, which I know you can do with a Tesla as well. There is an adapter you can get where you can just plug it into the wall, but it takes a lot longer to charge. So for me, that was kind of the biggest detractor. I didn't want an all-electric vehicle, and I kind of thought that's what the Prime was. Well, it's not. It's still a hybrid, just has a bigger electric motor for increased drive miles, I guess. You can go further on the Prime than you can the lower trim levels. So that was the misconception I had. Now, as far as how far you can go, on the electric motor in the level below the Prime, just the regular hybrid, you're going to get somewhere between 4 and 6 miles on a charge. Not a whole lot. That's basically enough to move you around in your driveway, maybe in a parking lot, something like that, and then you're going to exhaust that. You're going to be running on the engine, the gas-powered engine. On the Prime, from the testing that I've seen, it's rated at 44, 42 miles, something like that, on a single charge. But the testing I've seen, they were able to get it somewhere close to 50 miles, which I would think for most people in normal daily commutes is probably enough that if you're just driving back and forth to work, you're never going to have to buy any gas. You can bring it home, plug it in, and charge it. By the way, the chargers, you can get one of those faster charging units for home. That's going to do it in about 4 or 5 hours is what I've seen, something like that, for a full charge. If you just plug it into the wall, you're going to get somewhere about 11 hours, something like that, maybe 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. Plenty, I think, if you bring it home and you're going to let it sit overnight until you get up and drive to that brick and mortar and do it all over again. Now, the only concern about that, you have to make sure that you burn up the gas that you do have in the tank, because you don't want to fill up the tank and then never use it, and then 3 years later you'll have a problem, because gasoline does go bad. So I would suggest that once a month you go ahead and run all the gas down, fill it up again, and then go back to just the electric version if you can get away with that. Now, the other thing that is enticing for me is the 0 to 60 times. And I know, are we even talking about this with a Toyota Prius? We are. 0 to 60 in the levels below the Prime, it's about 7.1 seconds, somewhere in that range. Of course, it depends on weight, what you get on it, the model, all that stuff. In the Prime, it's a 0 to 60 of 6.4 seconds. We are almost real close, sub 6 second 0 to 60 time in a Toyota Prius. That's got to be a blast to drive. Right now, the car that I'm replacing it with, or for rather, is a Honda Civic 6-speed manual. It's just the coupe version. It's pretty quick, but it's not quite as quick as that. So I'm going to have a little bit faster, I'm talking about on the 0 to 67.1, than I have right now. So it should be a blast to drive, plenty of oomph. It's a small car, it's low to the ground, should feel like you're really moving. Love that. Now, as far as which one you should get, honestly, if I had it to do all over again and I was a little more knowledgeable going into this, I probably would have held out for the Prime. Even though the Prime to me seems very difficult to find, I should say. Toyota's not building a ton of them. Somewhere, and I'm talking about the Prius altogether, I believe, somewhere in the 10 to 15,000. Somewhere in that range. So they're going to be difficult to get. That, of course, brings up another issue, and that's pricing. Because they are so scarce and hard to get, dealerships are actually adding money to the bottom line. They're doing it in the form of added options. So at least now it's not just a line on a sticker that says market adjustment, 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever, and you don't get anything for it. The good thing about it, if you have a decent dealer, is you can remove things that you don't want. That's what I've experienced. For instance, they were justifying that increased cost by adding things like paint protection, window tinting, some sort of GPS theft where you can track the car if it gets stolen. Some of those things you can remove. In other words, getting rid of that market adjustment addition that you don't want to pay for anyway. So that's the good part about it. I'd rather they do that than just add money to the sticker. For me, would have been the Prius Prime. I'm going to use the XLE, which is what I'm getting, as kind of a stepping stone. So I'll have the lower, mid-lower trim level to try to kind of test out, see what it feels like. And then eventually, maybe a couple years, something like that, when hopefully the supply is a little bit better and pricing is a little bit lower, go ahead and step up to the Prius Prime and see what that's all about in the form of a truly useful electric/hybrid version that I can primarily just use the electric features in it. Should be pretty awesome. Anyway, just wanted to get on here, talk about that a little bit. Still waiting for my Prius to show up. It's about a month, about 2 weeks late so far. Hopefully it comes in soon. Supposed to be here next week. Depending on when you see this video, I may have it already. Who knows? We shall see. Leave a comment. Let me know. If you're interested in the Prius, which one would you get? The regular lower trim level or the Big Daddy, the Prius Prime? I'd be curious to know. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.